It became real the night that he could not get out of the car. He had been pushing through it for a while, not feeling well, in pain, but working through the way he always did with everything. And that night he came home from work and sat outside in the driveway and couldn't move. My mom went out to check on him. She came back in to get me. Together we helped him out of the car and physically carried him into the house. My mother, my little mother, and me, and I was just a teenager. He was 6'4". He was the pillar of my strength, and we carried him in together. Good morning, day 31 of Turquoise Rising. I went to school the next day, and he went to the hospital. The doctors ran test after test and couldn't figure out what was going on with him. One of the kids in my class asked me if my dad had cancer. She said she heard that he was dying. I ran out of the room and ran to the payphone and called my mom hysterical. My world shattered. She told me he did not have cancer. And the truth was that she had no answers yet. She was running on fumes herself. So my grandparents drove me out to my aunt's house on Long Island to keep me busy and try to keep my mind off of it. I was terrified of the unknown and worried about him, about missing school. And it went on for at least a week, probably more. And then finally they said he came home. So I went back home. And there was my dad sitting up in the bed. My mom and everyone had done all they could to make him look as good as possible for us. But in my eyes, he looked different. He looked sick. And that was the beginning of the nightmare. He was eventually diagnosed with Wegener's granulomatosis. My dad had a battle ahead of him. And I guess I did too. My heart was never the same. Before that night, he was something else entirely. Growing up with a police officer as a dad was just not normal. When you broke a bone, a police car would take you to the ER. Sometimes the ride home from school was in a police car once or twice. One time, a call came in when I was in the car with him, and I ducked down in the back seat and off it went, lights and sirens. I knew he told me I had to stay down. Stay in the car, do not touch anything. And off he ran to help with a domestic dispute into a house. And I just waited for him. And that was a man who read to me at night, running to help a stranger because they called for help. There was a time my class had a trip to the horse farm where we kept the horses. And he had arranged it. And we were on our way, and the bus driver was pulled over. The teachers were freaking out on the bus. And the driver kept saying, I have no idea why I'm being pulled over. And my dad walked up to the bus driver's window and then around the bus, and the driver opened the door. Here comes my dad holding my lunch, which I had left on the kitchen table that morning. I was so excited to show my friends the farm, I forgot my lunch. All the kids thought that that was really pretty cool. I did too. I just loved seeing him and spending time with him. There were so many times I was at the store with him or running an errand, and an elderly person would stop him in his jeans and his sweatshirt, his sneakers, and ask him if he was the police officer that helped him. And yes, he always was, and he remembered them. And he had the kindest eyes. He was an empath, and he looked at people in a way that resonates with me, always. He always seemed to know what people needed before they ever had to tell him. And my dad was charming. He was caring. He cared about what was right in the world, and he cared deeply for people and doing the right thing. And that was the man that I carried into the house that night, and that was my dad. I gave his eulogy, and I held him as he was passing, and I made a decision that day of his funeral. If I cried, I could not get through speaking those words. So that I went through the entire funeral stoic. I sat in the front pew and made no eye contact with anyone, because I knew that there were people in that church who loved me, and they would look at me and I would cry in 2 seconds. And I needed to hold it together. That was my mission that day. I was going to hold it together and deliver that speech. I almost fell apart twice that day. The first was when my cousin came up to the pew and grabbed my arms. I couldn't look at her. I knew if I looked at her, it was all gonna fall apart. So I kept my eyes forward and I delivered the eulogy. The second was the procession. My dad had a police escort. They closed the Long Island Expressway for him. They closed off every road between Manhasset, the church, and the funeral home. And then again, from the funeral home, from the church to the cemetery. And I did not know that they were going to drive past our house. I didn't know they did that. I didn't know it was a thing. I had never lost anyone before. And when they turned onto our street, I really understood for the first time that he was never going to walk through that door again. He loved that house. He had the vision buy the corner lot, to split it, to have his brothers build our house, then have my mom's parents build theirs next door. We grew up with our grandparents and our aunt and uncle right in our backyard. Sunday dinners, no more. And he was really gone. I was so angry. I was defiant. And I hated every single person who said, "I'm so sorry for your loss," because it was not my fucking loss, it was his. He was the one who got screwed. He was the one gonna miss out on the entire rest of his life. He'd been sick for years and then went into remission. He received a kidney transplant from my uncle, and then he finally lived 5 more years. And he went to the hospital, and it was so rough. It was so rough. He suffered, and it was for nothing. We lost the battle. We lost the best thing we ever had. And after the eulogy, his parents came up to me. My grandmother, my dad's mom, told me what a beautiful job I had done. She asked me for a copy of what I'd written, and that meant everything to me. It meant everything, truly. And I flew back to Colorado, completely numb. I was changed. It was different. I would just blast loud music, collapse into my dark closet. Nothing seemed important any longer. My biggest fear in my life at that point was to lose my dad, and it happened. We spoke almost every day. I lost my life compass. He was my North Star. And little did I know how much I would lose myself in the years to come. This is day 31, 90 days, live and unfiltered. And if you're in your own reinvention, come and walk with Rico and I. Subscribe below and rise out loud.